There comes a point in everyone's life where they make one simple evaluation. Do I want a nice watch? That thought can disappear as quickly as the one that wonders what would happen if you slammed your car into the central reservation at 70 miles an hour, or it can linger. You're here because you're in the latter camp. Stay until the end for my number one tip. Let's learn about watches. If you're greener than a field of peas, then you probably want to sit down a sec, because before we get into the nitty-gritty, we're going to talk pricing. Whatever you think expensive means, recalibrate it at once. Where we're going to use the word cheap, like astronauts on board the 17,500 mile per hour International Space Station. Use the word slow. You can buy a good watch for $10. You can also buy a good watch for $1 million. Take the average and you're looking at a hobby where way more people than you'd expect call a $5,000 watch insane words like good value and affordable, myself included. The reason? Watchmaking takes the 80-20 rule, pulls its pants down and slaps it on its bare backside in front of its aging mother. Where you and I and everyone else in the world would consider a job good enough to be good enough, watchmaking is all about spending the bulk of the time, and therefore money, on the rest. The result? You can get a great watch for $500, but you can get a really great one for $50,000. We aren't all blessed with a bag of seeds from which to grow a row of magic money trees, and so buying a watch can become a bit more than an impulse purchase to treat yourself for whatever nonsense reason you've considered is worth rewarding. So the hot button topic when it comes to buying a watch is as follows: cash or finance. On the one hand, you've got the guy still using a PS2 as a DVD player and driving rusted out Toyotas, telling you it's cold hard cash or nothing, that borrowing money for anything is literally worse than reanimating Hitler and setting him up with a job as a studio exec. And on the other, you've got those who'll finance anything that isn't tied down. They'll take a loan out for the fuel in the car they're driving to the bank to sign that very loan agreement. If they can die with the debt of a small nation to their names, they'll die happy. The balance of the matter is unsurprisingly more balanced than that. It's not a great idea to borrow money that's heavily interest-bearing with payments that are a stretch just for a bit of metal you strap to your wrist. But taking advantage of interest-free finance with payments that you can easily manage? Sure, go for it. Live a little. With the money stuff out of the way and the video retention suitably destroyed, those of you who are still here will want to know a little bit more about the whats, wheres and whys of buying watches. Let's start with the big one: power. I don't mean which watch can you buy to make you a powerful alpha male. I'm pretty certain you're one of those already since you've taken the time to subscribe to my channel. I'm talking about the driving force of the wristwatch. Most watches in the world these days are powered by a battery. Most things are powered by a battery after all. With a quartz watch, however, it's a closed-loop system. There's no mobile phone signal making sure the time stays accurate, and so some of that battery power is used to charge a literal piece of quartz. The quartz vibrates with the accuracy of a Swiss watch. Better, actually. And that's why they're used. Before Howard Carter first discovered electricity in Tutankhamun's tomb, however, watches were mechanical instead, powered by a wound spring and kept accurate with another spring. You might have heard people suggesting you can have your watch mechanical or automatic. Those people are boneheads. An automatic watch is a mechanical watch, one where the spring that stores the power is wound by a swinging weight that moves when you move. Before that was invented, and in some traditional watches today, mechanical wristwatches were wound manually via the crown. The great secret of the wristwatch compared to its progenitor, the pocket watch, is its ability to retain its location on the wrist. Pocket watches were kept in pockets because balancing them on the wrist was completely impractical and they kept falling off. That is, until someone cheated by welding bits of wire to them to secure two buckled strips of leather, thus fashioning the pocket watch into a small decorative belt for the lower arm. Whilst the pocket watch was considered well cool by the gentlemen of the early 20th century and the wristwatch for beta simps, turns out that, knee-deep in mud in the middle of France with bullets whizzing inches above your head, practicality prevails. Metal bracelets then began to replace leather straps somewhere towards the mid-century as we got bored of land and started evolving back into the sea again. I don't know if you've ever got leather wet, but it's not pretty, and so dive watches tended to favour steel. Now, it's really a matter of preference. Leather straps are a consumable item, and so if you're a sweaty boy like me, you might find a bracelet better, or perhaps a woven strap. It doesn't help that watchmakers charge about £1 billion for new leather straps, but you can also buy third-party. The emphasis on the term watch collector is the implication of owning more than one. Maybe there's a sense that only owning one watch is a bit casual, like the number of watches you own are somehow directly correlated with your IQ. That's not the case. I've met some people with enormous collections who can barely wipe the dribble from their own chin, and single watch owners who I'm pretty certain will invent the hovercars we were all promised. The real reason people end up with a whole bunch of watches is because it's often the journey and not the destination that gets our salivary glands secreting. Reading the internet inside out, gaslighting the salesperson by getting their hopes up and then gradually lowering them week on week, attempting the mental alchemy to logically frame the purchase as an accounting necessity. It's all part of the dressing that distracts us from thinking too hard about the point of our own existence. Speaking of having a point to existence, I write books. You can get one if you like. There's a link in the description. Thank you so much. Choosing options on a watch isn't quite as bad as choosing them in a car, because unlike the car where some of the options are completely pointless, with a watch it's all completely pointless. You know keyless go and heated seats are going to be pretty useful, but you can't quite justify why you want to spend $500 on having the kickplate light up, because it's stupid, even if it is also cool. That is watches in a nutshell. Stupid, but cool. You don't need a chronograph because your phone has a better one. You don't need a world timer because your phone has a better one. You don't need a... You get the point. That doesn't just apply to mechanical complications, your dates, power reserves, calendars, etc. Do you need 200 meters of water resistance? Do you need a dial clear enough to be read at night during an airborne bombing raid? I sure hope not. The point is that you're free of needing to justify any of it. If you want a minute repeater because it goes ding ding, that's why you buy a minute repeater. If a chronograph that's been used in space makes you a bit giggly, then that's the one you get. If all you want is 2 hands and no more, that's the watch for you. Keep your brain out of it and let your heart take the wheel. Most watches are made of steel because it's expensive enough to last without turning your wrist green, and cheap enough to avoid prices that will make you choke on your pot noodle. It's not steel or nothing though. You can buy watches made from titanium, ceramic, carbon fibre even, all chosen for practical benefits like durability and lightness, and looking cool. Okay, mostly for looking cool. Gold though. It's softer than steel and it's certainly more expensive. We've seen it au naturel in yellow, pointlessly in the same colour as steel, as if anyone can visually tell the difference without invading your personal space, and with a little bit of ground penny in it to make it the same colour as the rusty planet Mars. It's all good. Rose gold was trendy, so was white gold, and its harder, more expensive cousin platinum. And yellow gold is on its way back in again. It's like the age-old question, why do we wear a shirt with a collar? To give the tie something to do. It's nice to dress up, deck ourselves out with festive trinkets. Rolex, Patek Philippe, Omega, Breitling, Tag Heuer. These are watchmakers most people will have heard of. This isn't just the tip of the iceberg, it's the cap sat on top of the unexpected ship's captain who's just about to pile straight into it. There are brands owned by groups, independents, one-man bands and even drop shippers looking to make a quick buck, and there's good and bad all over the place. Most people stick to the well-known because it's safe and sensible, and I don't blame them. If you like spending less and getting more, however, going off-piste is a risk worth taking. It'll take you more time, more research, but you stand to do far better. It's really based on how much you can be bothered. I'm lazy at the best of times, but I usually have an appetite to make a bit of an effort if it stands to benefit me, and I suggest you do the same. You haven't got this far into the video just to go and sit on a Rolex waiting list, have you? Long-term viewers of this and the Watchfinder channel will know that my overriding personality skew is that of the cheapskate. You know when you can just tell something about someone without having any direct evidence of the fact. I'm the kind of person that you can just tell still owns the same socks he got 10 years ago. As such, I'm no stranger to buying things used. My wife has drawn the line for me at socks, but when it comes to watches, I dabble. Sometimes new, sometimes used. Depends. A used watch, purchased right, can be a financial no-brainer, an easier decision than going to a restaurant and choosing between the red and a sledgehammer to the knackers. Some people aren't so keen though. Sure, buying a Rolex new for a third of its used value is a clear winner, but given like-for-like condition, I'm not sure why anyone would be put off a used watch for much less money. The people who think it's ick, do they take their own bedsheets to the hotel with them on holiday? They do. Well, that's weird. For me, shopping used is another tool in the toolkit to getting me what I want. If I can help it, I'll let someone else pay the depreciation for me. Most watches don't immediately become worth a king's ransom as soon as you leave the jeweler, and there are some great watches that become affordable purely by the nature of them having been worn by someone other than you. Talking of investments. This one's pretty new actually in comparison to everything else, and yet it's the question I get asked the most. Which watch should I buy that's the best investment? The answer? Good luck with that one. Be my guest and trawl through the historical data on watch charts or wherever, study trends and patterns and figure out which watch you think will yield the greatest return. I have several thoughts on that. First, I get it. Watches are expensive. It's easier to justify the spend knowing it's going to pay for itself several times over if you need to sell. Thing is, if you buy an older watch, you're likely to enjoy it over a few years for very little cost anyway, and I think that's good enough. Expecting it to keep you in a free supply of top hats and monocles, however, just seems disingenuous to me. Look at it like this. You go to a nice restaurant, you don't skim through the menu looking for the best nutritional option, the most calories for the pennies. You choose what makes your mouth water, what you think is going to leave you not just full, but satisfied. Watches are supposed to be satisfying, enjoyable. They aren't just numbers on a page. They're little engines, cheeky rewards, definitive memories, life milestones, and future commitments. A watch can spend anywhere between a moment or a lifetime with you. They might be the last physical thing that remains of you when you pass on. Is it really worth compromising that choice over an investment? I hope you feel suitably armoured to go out there and start bothering a few salespeople for yourself. Either that or you're more confused than ever. If that's the case, why not pop a question for me in the comments below? And if you've been around the block a few times yourself too, add your own tips as well. Please do also like and subscribe and check me out over on the Watchfinder channel. Thanks for watching.